Hello, everyone. Welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker Training. I'm Richard Carlton here at fmtraining.tv, where Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, business days at 1 o'clock Pacific time, we are doing FileMaker training. If you want to know more about that, I recommend that you visit the fmtraining.tv. So it's fmtraining.tv website. You can see right here. If you go to the top of the page, you come down, the live tab on the left will show you the upcoming broadcast schedule, which is always exciting. And then we have basically various FileMaker courses. We also have bundles. If you want to support the channel, feel free to purchase one of our training bundles. You can press here and click that. Some people say, well, I want to buy an individual training course. The problem is that there's so many different versions of FileMaker, et cetera, that it's hard for us to sell individual items. So we just we sell you one item and you get basically everything, right? Well, you have a basic training over here. So we have 3 different bundles. This has less, this has more, and this has pretty much almost everything in it, which is great. So low, medium, and high, choose the one that you want. They're all inexpensive. If we hit the upcoming training schedule right here, today is going to be some Monkeybread software. This is the plugin. Christian Schmidt spends a lot of time coming to us, showing us the amazing things that we can do with his plugin. It was awarded at least once or twice as the most valuable third-party product to help the FileMaker community. So it's not like Christian Schmidt thinks it's great. He does, but Claris / FileMaker / Claris before that thought it was great as well. So that's awesome. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I think Nick is doing his extreme makeover. I think he's doing extreme.
Oh, it's extreme makeover for hot air balloon Ken, as we like to call it.
Yes, hot air balloon Ken is going to be doing extreme makeover. Hopefully it's not like that. Hopefully it'll be a learning experience for everyone. Margaret, try to keep it on the positive side. I'm thinking it probably will be, right?
Yeah, I talked to Nick about that, and Nick has insisted he will be as glowing and as positive and as warm and fuzzy as possible. So.
However, if it was perfect and awesome, then Nick wouldn't be required. So it's kind of one of those sort of things. So yeah, so it's one of those things that, maybe you have an old solution that looks older. Like if I showed you some of my solution, my very first CRM that part of the company still uses for financial stuff, you could tell it's circa FileMaker 1994 kind of stuff. So it's really old and out of date. And of course, Nick would love to redo it. But we told Nick that if he broke the payroll system at RCC, then he may not be paid for a month or two while we figured out the bug. So he decided that the makeover wasn't that important. So yes, so very exciting. So then we got Christian Schmidt on Friday. So I'll be here Monday and Friday. And then I guess, is he on here for Monday too? So he's doing.
Yes, and then he has a long break. I haven't scheduled him after that.
Christian Schmidt, are we ready to transfer command to you?
Today we want to look into the SFTP functions and the MBS plugin. So by now you should have all downloaded the new plugin, 13.1.
Let me see.
On the website, monkeybreadsoftware.com. So today we look into the curl functions, which can do FTP and SFTP. The first thing to know is that there are 3 things to distinguish. So we have FTP, which is the old file transfer protocol, which then can be run a little bit more secure about SSL, or now TLS. So you can have an encrypted connection to your server, and that's named FTPS. The S is for the security. And then we also have SFTP, and that S is for SSH, another secure way to connect to a computer and do file transfer over this connection. So we have 2 protocols with about the same name, just different order of the letters. It makes a huge difference because they use different port numbers. Depending on which version you like, you may want to use one or the other. In general, I prefer SFTP because I only need to have one port open, while FTP and FTPS always use 2 ports. One for the control connection and one for the data connection, which can make sometimes trouble with the firewall.
I got a question. Isn't SSH, like Jacob Taylor will try to kind of like command line into a computer using SSH.
Yeah.
Isn't that
Yeah.
kind of, if you give someone access to SSH on your computer, isn't that kind of like more dangerous than just FTP?
Well, depends. On my provider, for my web hosting, I can create FTP accounts, which can be used for file transfer with SFTP, but those accounts are not allowed to start a shell.
Ah, okay.
So there is a little difference between being allowed to log in and start a remote shell on the server, or for just moving files.
Remote shell. That's what I'm thinking about. Because for those of you who did the live stream, the terminal stuff. Imagine you remote terminal into someone's computer and you're doing stuff. That's what SSH basically, at least to me, that's what that means. So
I got a little example account here. So I have a host name, I have a name and a password. And I got an FTP client here, where I can look in the folder and there's a logo. Currently, there's just one picture inside. So this is our testing account for today, and I will change the password after recording, so please don't mess up my server. You downloaded the plugin, so you got this folder, the examples. We have a curl folder here in the examples folder, and there is an FTP and an SFTP folder.
By the way, I get asked about this about every 2 or 3, 4 weeks. Someone wants to do something like this, move files like this. So I guarantee this is a high requested item. This is good.
Okay, let's start with directory listing. There's a thing a lot of people oh no, wait, you want an English copy. Sorry. So Eng 19 no Eng. So now it's an English copy. So when you get a login for a server like the one we had here, you can just put in your data, and you usually don't know which folder you end up. So if your website there's HTTP RCC consulting, you may be on the server, but you may not be in the folder you expect, but you may be in a folder like clients, RCC or web, RCC consulting, and then be in this folder.
Yeah, we need like an LS or something, like a list of the
Yeah, and that's what we do here, because people are usually not in the folder they expect to be. So here we have a script. We have the file listing, just the file names in this case, and we get here the log, and the log tells us that it got an IP address, it connected, it did the TLS handshake, got a server certificate, got a user, the username was accepted.
Nice. This is good stuff.
Yeah, so user is accepted, then password is required, password is given, and you should read the log. If you get an error, you should always read the log. And then it says we are in slash in the current directory. But I can tell you, this is not slash. Our slash for our user here is something like here, clients, name of the client web, name of the website or whatever. So this is our slash here. And depending on where you are, it could also be that your account is pointed to from a folder on the website. So it could be that your file is in the test folder on the website, and you end up in such a folder. And so if you say here, go into test folder, it says there is no test folder. You are in the test folder.
Yeah.
So next thing we see here is it's connecting again because this is FTP. And it does a separate connection for the data, and sends all the data, and on the end we get here something like transfer complete.
All right, so let me help here a little bit with this real quick. So the issue about the default directory is an important one. I'm just going to kind of talk about this just briefly here for some of you who haven't done a lot of this before. So the issue is that when you set up an FTP server, we used to set these up all the time, and anymore I haven't done it lately, but we use Dropbox and other stuff like that. But you can actually say, as you're setting up the server and you say, this is a username and password for the people to come in or whatever you want to do, we set their default directory where they land and maybe restrict into that directory. So that's what he's saying, is that you don't know where you're going to land. It depends on how the person who set up the FTP host. So once again, we're talking to a host like a web server, like a FileMaker server is providing the services. And one of those services is besides using password, things like that, is to spot them on a directory, right? So the idea with this plugin is that you can move files up and down, download files, upload files directly to this service that you set up and run. You don't have to use Dropbox per se or box.net or box.com or whatever it is, or Google OneDrive or whatever. You can run your own because in some ways that's more secure. I have questions about Google reading my documents and Google OneDrive. I'm pretty sure that they read everything that goes in there, which is great unless the secret, right? So then you don't want Google reading your stuff, right? So anyway, sorry about that. I just wanted to provide a little color to that.
So let's take a look on the script. So we have a directory listing script. It has 4 modes. We can try all the 4 modes. So we tell we make a new curl connection. We tell it the URL to use, set a few of the options, and especially we set the password and the username, and to use SSL, and please version TLS 1.2, which is number 6 in the version list. And then we perform it, and then we can write down the result in the field, which is pretty normal curl script with MBS plugin. So we got a normal directory listing. We can also get a directory listing extended. This is the one to parse. And this is parsed by the MBS plugin. So you can see here when we give you the directory listing as a JSON. So you can maybe easier handle that instead of parsing it yourself. Like if you would get the normal one with details, you would get the output from LS. That's not necessarily useful. So we have a directory listing. We have seen that our file is there. And we have the 4 modes. What was it? FTP list only, which basically tells it to just give you the names. And then there's, without this option, you get full listing. And then this one runs a custom request. This is an FTP command to ask for a detailed listing. And then we also have our option to give you the JSON with the wildcard match. So next thing would be SFTP. So we can just change the URL here to SFTP because this account can be used with both.
Lynn, but this is good stuff in here. This SSH, remote control with the plugin to send files, right? People ask about this all the time. If I had files that were sensitive, I wouldn't want to send them to a service like Google Drive or Microsoft's Box or Apple's virtual. You want your own, roll your own deal. David Angel, could store container fields in SFA. So here's the interesting part about this conversation. I'm not sure where Christian's going to go with this, but you could. We're talking about a client talking to a machine or a server, but I think the Monkeybread plugin could also be the server itself. So as you're doing SSH or FTP or these other things, you're not really talking to the machine per se. You're talking to FileMaker Pro running, or maybe server running, I guess. I don't know, but Pro running for sure. And Pro can get the information coming in through SSH, and then it could save it to a directory or save it in a record or in a field or a container or something, right? So I think absolutely, this is like a Swiss Army knife, right? Christian Schmidt's Swiss Army knife. He's given us this capability, but how you roll it out and how you deploy it will totally depend upon what your needs are, right? So for me, having FileMaker on the back end and talking to it and uploading files that way, you know, you could upload images and things like that, right? I mean, people always say, oh, I'm going to take pictures and put them in containers and have FileMaker go sync. Well, you could have a local copy of or maybe even on a laptop. I guess you could put Monkeybread on a plugin with Go, but really I would probably use a laptop and then have it beam the images to where they need to go. If that makes sense, right? So I think this is literally one of the more common kind of Swiss Army knife plugin issues that comes up, right? Plugins are known for emails, doing charting, stuff like that, and then doing FTP, used to be curl options, things like that, but now curl's kind of built into FileMaker. So FTP, actually basic FileMaker will do FTP, I think, but the plugin that we had with Christian was always vastly more powerful than what the base options are. All right,
Okay.
are you ready
I
to show your
think I
screen?
just yeah. I think I just don't use that. So after we listed the directory and we know that the file is there, we like to download the file.
So this is capturing a file, bringing it down, and we could obviously stick that file in a container or on a file or in a
Yeah, like you, whatever you like. So let's see. This example does.
Well,
it
David
streams
Angel
into a
asked if you
file.
could store it in a container field, right? So
Yeah, we can do that. We may change the script. Let's see. So we go to edit the layout. We add a field here, like if you like a container field, I just add it for you. So, and exit layout. Oh no, I wanted to add the field, of course. So I just put it somewhere. Now in the example, instead of streaming here to files on the folder file system, we just download it and then put it in a container. So I say here get result as container. And here I use the new container field. Now I need to know the URL. So in our case, well, we can just try here. This is a HTTP download, an old icon that works. So let's do an FTP again. So, oh, what was the file name? There's a file name.
Okay.
So no return on the end. Put in the username and the password. And click the button and download the file.
David Angel, there you go.
So we have the option here to use create output file to have the plugin stream the file to disk in a file on disk. So you don't need all the memory to hold the file at once. But for small files, you can just, of course, just load them to memory and then put them in container.
Okay, back up.
But some people like to
talk about the memory thing. Go back and David Angel has a question. I want to address that, but could you repeat the memory part again? Because memory management is something we have to think about with your plugin. So start that again.
Yeah. So if you download a 5 GB file here,
yes,
I would suggest you use curl create output file to tell the plugin to write it directly to a file, stream it, so it doesn't need 5 GB of memory.
Mm-hmm.
But for the image here, we don't do that.
What command did you use for this image? Because you had, could I see the two different ones? So you have create output file. Okay, that was the one that writes it to the file, so it's not in RAM memory, right? Oh,
So if I don't set it, the default thing is to do it in memory.
So set.
So we set the URL, the password, and the option. We just call perform here, and then the transfer runs.
Okay, so
the result is collected in memory.
This is in RAM. This is in RAM memory.
Yeah.
And this other option up here would be the option where instead of writing it into RAM memory, we're going to write direct to file, which really I would almost do that anyway, just to, because especially if you have a solid state drive, things like that, that'll be pretty quick. David Angel has a question. I'm going to address this question, David. David says, I am using the FM FileMaker cloud service. I'm assuming you're using the Claris hosted FileMaker server service, right? It has limited space, maybe a good idea to store these containers in another server in the cloud. Claris charges a premium for space on their servers. It's upwards of more than double what you would normally pay kind of places, but it has the benefit of being very problem and pain-free. That being said, we have run, so this give me just a second to frame this because this is irrelevant. People are going to ask about this, Christian Schmidt. Digital document management FileMaker. So there's a progression of hell. I will call it the progression to hell of your FileMaker solution. Hell being when it's big and it's slow and it's miserable to work with because it's so slow. So you have a FileMaker file with only text in it, fast and speedy. That's awesome. Then you have small images like icons, things like that. You could leave those if you don't have a million small images as stored containers. So they'll make the file a little bit bigger, but if you don't have too many or they're not very big, not really a problem. So I would say, a couple megabytes of images maybe, right? 20 megabytes of images, max, right? That kind of thing. Then you've got digital document management like what I do, where I have 5 gigs of text, but I have, or not 5 gigs, a gig file or 2 gig file, but I have 20 or 30 gigabytes of images or more. Those absolutely need to be stored externally, okay? So they're in a container stored externally out of FileMaker. So FileMaker server is managing the FMP12 file. It's also managing the directory of images. Then you get to the part where you start talking hundreds of gigs or terabytes. There are a handful of people out there who do that. In that case, it's so big, it's so fat, it's so monstrously painful that you have FileMaker manage. We're back almost to the beginning where it has a text-only database, and you have FTP, like using this plugin right here, to save these images to a secure location that's away from FileMaker. So FileMaker server never has to deal with it, back it up, manage it, none of that, because it's too damn big. It's too big. And so then you have use the Christian Schmidt plugin to move the files there. If they're in a location where you park, say you park them up there with SSH or FTP or FTPS or whatever, reading them down, ideally they would be a directory listing where you could just read them down through a web viewer, right? Or something like that. Or a button that you press a button and it pops it open into like I don't like to use interactive web viewers. I will actually hit a button, it'll go to the URL, pop it up into its own window as a helper app. So if you pop a PDF open on the Mac, it goes into the preview application, for example, right? So FileMaker doesn't have, all FileMaker does have the URL, a piece of text, shoot it to the operating system, and it pops up, okay? So that's kind of this continuum of no images to terabytes of images, right? And how you solve them as a professional FileMaker developer will change. This tool is essential for about half those scenarios. So
I tried, again, the same thing with SFTP. And it looks like I had a typo in before because I now got this URL and it seems to work.
Yeah.
So SFTP, you see the difference here? For SFTP, I have to specify the full path for some reason. It probably depends on the configuration because I have seen different ways for different customers. So, but we got our file and we downloaded it. Now we want to upload a file. So maybe take this, file to upload, and the other example, yeah, this is a simple one where we put in an URL, and I just copy the URL from the other window. So on the end of the URL, you put the file name of the new file. So your container or your text file doesn't need to have the same name as it had before. So we can just click here, upload, and it uploaded a file. And now where's my directory listing example? Yeah, there it is, test.txt. Let's take a look on the script. So we set the URL, we set the flag for uploading, password, username, and in this case, we just provide the text for the file as text in FileMaker. So if you have to upload some kind of JSON or XML or simple text file, you can just provide the text as it is, and you don't need to create a container for it first or create a file on disk. And then we perform it, and it will just work. We can also upload a picture. Like, now I need a picture. Let's take our monkey again. I upload a container. In this case, now I have far too many windows. So I need an URL. So this is going to be image.jpg. I put in again the username and the password. And I say here, upload file in container. And the plugin will do it. We have uploaded and fine. I can take a look on my FTP client here. Oh, let me just go back. Oops, where is it here? It's really, can't hide the password. So, okay, in this case, the script builds find a URL by using the URL here for the folder and the file name. So when we upload it, we get our image JPEG. But now I have a file there, and I may not need that file. So how do we delete a file? Let's just change the script to delete the file. So again, we have the URL and the file name, and we're done to an upload. Password, username. We don't need a file to upload, but we want to set the command to delete the file. In this case, the URL is just a folder. So it goes into the right folder on the server. And now we give it a command, which goes into a option named quote. The command will be, in this case, rm and the file name. If you may have a file name with special characters, you can put it in quotes to avoid any trouble.
So RM is remove. Is that what that is?
Yeah, that's the remove
Okay.
command.
Okay.
And let's see here, the file is gone.
Okay, real quick, go back over here just so people understand what's happening. On the left here, that application, that's your FTP app that you're running on the Mac?
Yeah.
Just for fun, can you go to the About page and show people what this is? What is this?
This is the fetch application. It's
Fetch.
very old.
And it basically gives you a specific application on your Mac that provides what does it do SSH or just does secure FTP?
It does FTP, SFTP, FTP over SSL. It does all the ways.
It does them all. Okay, great. I used this 20 years ago. Is this still being made available? Is it still being updated?
Yeah, this is still a current app, and I have used it on macOS 9 20 years ago.
Okay, yeah. Well, they've been updating it because those. I recognize that menu up there, and I'm like, I recognize that. So yeah.
So
wait, back up. I have a question. Is Fetch a client or is it the server application? It used to be a client.
No, it's a client.
So Fetch is a client. So you're using this to verify what's there before you run the scripts over here. Got it.
Yeah.
So what is the hosting service? Is it the operating system doing that? What is the
hosting? This is my web hoster, the company running my website.
Okay, so they are just providing that. Okay, so Fetch is the client, not the server. Okay, got it. All right, sorry about that.
You may also use SFTP access with your FileMaker server. Like most FileMaker servers nowadays run on Linux, and there's an SSH server part included. So you can use the plugin to, for example, use SFTP to go to your FileMaker server and download the files in the logs folder.
I have a question. Is that in Linux? Is that sandbox? It sounds like it's not sandbox. You can go in there and jump directories and look at stuff.
Well, usually you would use your root login, which you also use for SSH with the remote shell. So you have access to all the files anyway.
Okay.
But you could, of course, just create a normal user account and then restrict them to their home folder.
Of the file, like the FileMaker logs folder, etc. Okay, great. Yeah.
Yeah, you could restrict it to be only for one folder.
Yeah.
So, so this is delete for SFTP. You may also want to delete for FTP. In this case, the command is delete. So I just put it in here as a note. Another thing people like to do is upload and rename a file. That's something I would like to show. Quote. So with curl, we have the option quote to be the command of the thing to do on this request. But also you can just say, I want to upload something and I want to do something before that, or maybe something after that. So we have here the post and pre-quote. So let's see, the post quote has commands to do things like renaming, deletion. You can use FTP commands or SFTP commands. So we could now try to upload a file, and when it's finished uploading, we could rename it. The key thing here is that we want to avoid having partially uploaded files on the server.
I was about to ask the question, how do you know it's done, right? Because this is asynchronous, right? You send it to go and it just does it on its own.
It's synchronous. We can use our plugin asynchronous, but this is synchronous. So the perform function will run and will only come back when it's finished. And then you can inspect what's the result.
So it's going to wait. Where's the actual, go back to your script. Where's the actual upload? Where the upload is right?
Yeah, in the perform.
Right. So this command will go, if we were running the script debugger, it would on its, well, not script debugger, but the script is going to hold it here until the plugin says it's done. Then it continues. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's change this. So we are uploading. Let's say we are not using the file name here. We use something like temp JPEG. So that's our temp file. And if the download would die, like we could get an interruption on our internet connection, you would see the temp JPEG. But on the successful upload, we want to have our actual file name. So we would change here to use a rename command to say old name is temp JPEG. A new name is now the quoted. Oh, I need to go here to get the auto completion from FileMaker, or I just So let's run this. And you wonder whether it does anything. So we got a temp file, and we got an image file, and we got here a rename command failed. Yeah. Okay, let me delete it again. I run the upload command here. The file is there. If I do it again, I get an error on the rename because, well, image JPEG is there already. Now we like to also fix that, and we will tell curl to delete the file if it exists already. So here the first command here is to delete it. Delete, and then rename. Now the next problem is the remove command will fail if the file is not yet there. And for that, we use curl uses a star in front of it. If exists as indicated by star. So if there's a star, it will.
That's super clever. I like that. That's really clever. I like that.
So let's refresh here. So it worked. Can run it again. No error. So the star has the meaning that it ignores the result of the command. So we can upload to a temp file, we can remove the old file, we can rename the file, and so we have an instant switch between the files, and it's unlikely that anyone comes in between and gets a half-uploaded file. Any questions about this?
Well, Code to Go said you're trying to rename temp JPEG to image JPEG, but he's running about 90 seconds behind, so I'm not sure if you fixed that or not.
Okay, we uploaded here to temp JPEG.
Okay.
And then we deleted the image JPEG and renamed the temp to the actual file name.
Did we get the David Angel question about uploading container fields?
Yeah, so I have a function called setInputFile.
Oh, wait, well,
Which is maybe a little bad named because it's about a container. So the idea here is a FileMaker container can have several different streams. So you may have a PDF and a JPEG with a preview. And you can actually tell the plugin to upload the preview part. But usually if you here say, I want this container uploaded, it will pick the main content, and which would be the PDF then, if you have a PDF there. You can also tell the plugin to just upload a portion of the file if you have a big file in the container. And we have separated functions for input PDF, input GIF, input PNG. The idea here is this function would give you an error if there is no PDF in the container. So the transfer wouldn't start at all, or maybe not. So you would get an error later because you didn't input anything. But usually for newer code, we just use the set input file. And we also have here open input file, which actually opens a file on disk to stream it to the server. And this avoids reading all the file into memory. So next thing I want to show is here progress dialog. So the plugin can show a progress dialog. And if you upload a file and it takes a while, you may see the progress bar walking from left to right. And you can customize how it looks like. So we delete it, we upload it. We can also upload several files in a loop if you like. That's an example going here. It just loops over all the files, just changes the URL each time and the input, and runs perform. And because this uses the same curl variable here, the same session, we can reuse the connection, and this is a little bit faster than making new connections each time, but it allows you to do a batch upload. I think then we are done if you don't have any question.
Hey, I'm going to recommend that we come back to this. You're doing great today, but I want to come back and spend some time on this. I'm talking about it with Margaret offline. This is one of those moments where everyone, if you want to buzz in a little bit on the conversation, there's ongoing questions in various, because remember we're broadcasting in Twitch, YouTube, Discord, technically Zoom. Questions about how to handle kind of the continuum, the progression of digital document management in FileMaker from low to high. This tool is essential for doing the high part. What I'm going to suggest is that we get Jacob, Taylor, and myself to do this, and then we bring in Christian Schmidt. We'll have to borrow you, Christian, for a thing, but we're going to be doing a direct event where we talk about when you get to lots of containers and saving space in FileMaker, going through the process of uploading a container to a Linux server or someplace that we decide we want to do, and then displaying it. So actually having a solution where people can download it and play with it. It uses the Monkeybread plugin, which means that unfortunately you have to put a couple bucks in this, but if you're dealing with many gigabytes, if not terabytes of images, then just spend the couple bucks on Monkeybread because it's super cheap for what it does for you. So do I have one buzz? Any other buzzing? Does any other like that conversation? Because he's talking about it here, but he's kind of hitting it and moving and hitting it, moving, which is fine. But that one, I heard about 2 people asked me about this weekend in email, right? And I think it's a high traffic question. Canberra says buzz, probably other people buzzing. So we will add that to the schedule, Christian, and make sure that you're part of that conversation. Yes.
Yeah, I just showing the toolbox here. I mean, we have built things for customers. Like for example, you can have a document management tool where if you drop in a PDF into a container field, we would automatically upload it somewhere with SFTP or maybe S3 on Amazon. And then if you come back later to the same record, we would just quickly download the file so you see the preview.
Okay, can we bring you back for just a dedicated focus on that? Do you have that? Is that an example file we can look at? Because that's what we're talking about doing here, right?
I could certainly make one.
Okay.
But feel free to just start with your document management tool first.
Part of the conversation, it's probably a 1-hour event, maybe an hour and 15 minutes. You probably wouldn't be important until like the last half of it. Because we have digital document management tools. We could add this in there, right? I have to decide, how would you if someone came to you and said, hey, I got 500 gigabytes, I don't want it on my own FileMaker server, what service would you park that at to be reliable and secure?
I would usually just drop it in Amazon S3,
S3,
some compatible service, because we have the way to create pre-authenticated URLs for those files on the server, so we can just upload them and then create this URL and load it in a web viewer, and you can see it without actually loading it down into FileMaker, but you just see it in the web view, the preview.
Okay, I think we've done that before without your plugin, but I would probably like to do it with your plugin because it'd probably be better for everyone involved. Do you have a sample or demo of that? That if you could send it to me, I could thread it in and we could make a live stream about it?
Well, you have the plugin here.
Oh, there we go, right there. Okay, so that's everything right there. Okay.
Yeah. So but also if you just have some space with SFTP or FTP with a few gigabytes lying around,
yeah,
like you
I
may
understand
have
that. I'm trying
FileMakers.
to talk to real customers that have real problems, and I need to direct them at a real solution. Amazon is very much a real solution. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I know for programmer types like Code to Go and some of these other Pavel and some other folks, Lynn from Austin, etc. Having a spare FTP server to throw around and play with makes sense, but I'm talking about practical, like real world that people can take to their boss and say, hey, this is what we need. This is how we're going to solve it. We're going to do it professionally. Here's even a video where we talked about it with Christian Schmidt, right? So
okay.
Yeah, let me. So the document management. As soon as we start talking about document management in a real way, you're hitting it from kind of the programmer standpoint, but from like my standpoint. So let me show everyone what's going on here. So this is actual digital document management solution I use. So over here on the left are various, like a project will be this group in here. I can sort, I can do various things like that. The idea though is I have all these containers over here. I put a lot of pictures in the containers, etc. Let's see, confirmation email. Here's a confirmation email that was going out, kind of a screenshot. But being able to send these out to outside of FileMaker, like this solution is fine inside of FileMaker, but if you actually had some like really like large content or you had video, for example, you would definitely not want that inside your FileMaker container. So the idea would be to take this tool kind of like this and take like a set of containers here as an example and build out 3 or 4 containers that actually use Christian Schmidt's plugin to shoot them off to AWS, right? So back to that kind of conversation, right? So that would be the idea, right? So it's a practical execution of a large digital document management thing. So we had an event on this, I don't know, a week and a half ago. We gave a copy of this file away. Plus, what was different about this, we were focused on down here, but you can actually come in here and you have almost like a fully loaded word processor in here, but it's JavaScript with a rich text editor in here. And so instead of it just being a text field, this is actually a web viewer right here, gave us some advanced capabilities, which are really great, right? So that's what we were talking about, but you could take something like this and extend it and make it better, further, farther, faster using the Christian Schmidt FTP. I'll just use the word FTP loosely, communication, okay? File, upload, download. And then the idea is that you could have little previews, you could build little thumbnails in here, right? So for example, for those of you, you're familiar with the get thumbnail function in FileMaker, Christian Schmidt even has more thumbnail capabilities. But if I go into, for example, this is a classic case of getting too big. So right here is my aviation database. This thing is fat. This thing's like about 30 or 40 gigabytes, okay? And if I come in here and look at documents, that's a megabyte, that's 16 megs. Some of these are a couple hundred megabyte. Here's 100 megabyte, this one right here. So notice as I'm scrolling, this is really fast. If this was actually a small version of that container, it wouldn't be that fast. It would be very slow. So what is this? Well, if you come back over here to the picture, I drill into this record, that's the actual container. That's the actual container. But as you create this, you actually stick this in here. I run a get function that creates a small thumbnail. So when we're ripping through the list view, we only see this small thumbnail. Otherwise, you start to, even with remote containers, we're pushing FileMaker so hard sometimes, FileMaker just can't keep up. So you need a lightweight thumbnail. That's what we're talking about with Christian Schmidt. In my case, the light thumbnails are only in the list view. When I drill down in the detail view, we get the full container. But in what we're saying with his solution is that the full documents are not actually in FileMaker at all, only the previews. And if I hit the button right here, this is going to open up the this was my commercial check ride when I flew the commercial check ride years ago, back in 2019, the flight navigation of what I was doing. But it pulled it out of the container. But what if you hit the open button and it went to Amazon, grabbed it, and then opened it up for you that way, right? So that's what we're talking about. Pretty cool stuff. So Ken is saying another buzz. A couple people are here interested in this. Dunnigan is talking about this. Yeah, so there's some interest in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely some interest here. So once again, anyway, so but I would watch a list view and it would go it would display this, but it would be slowly chunking and spinning, and my processor on my computer would be spinning and trying to see this is a lot of load, but that's because I'm doing a TV show, live stream, and video encoding. Normally FileMaker would be, if you're only in FileMaker, it's down at the bottom, nothing's happening, but this thing would be struggling to keep the thumbnails. And you're like, well, wouldn't FileMaker server keep the thumbnail? Right? You come up here to FileMaker, you say preferences, you go to File, Manage, Containers, and you say thumbnails, and you say generate thumbnails, permanent storage. This is, I'm going to speak frankly here, bullshit. Permanent storage is not permanent storage. Temporary storage deletes it pretty much immediately. This permanent storage here will delete it behind your back after a day or two. Because if it was permanent storage, then this stuff would rip out here real quick, but it doesn't. So this means that it's somewhat more sticky, but still going to be deleted. And so because that this is a lie, a gross lie in the product, I had to start thumbnailing stuff and going back and managing thumbnails. So anyway.
If I would talk about the thumbnail thing, I would we could also talk an hour about this, because you would have to do something on your import where you switch between different file types and do different script paths for different file types. And you would, for example, check if get thumbnail from FileMaker gives you a thumbnail. If not, for other file types, you would have to use other ways, like using the plugin or running a command line tool. And so it may be a little bit of work to get all file types covered.
What, with a preview on all file types? Well, if not, you just get, I mean, I prefer to have a preview if I can have one, and mostly because I'm doing PDFs and screenshots and Word files, although sometimes I get a preview and sometimes not with Word. It depends what it is. But I think this would be this is a high traffic, high traction area on this stuff. I think it's people very much interested in this big time, because it takes your tool and it makes it like people immediately must have it. If you want to use this, go buy his product, right? So anyway, Something to think about. So it is top of the hour. Canberra says, I got buzzing. I got multiple buzzing. The people want to see this. I think this would be a good one. But it's the idea is that you go beyond basic digital document management. This is still kind of in basic mode, kind of lightweight, you know, maybe 10 or 15 gigs of containers, maybe 20 gigs. But at some point, that becomes unwieldy, right? So that's it for today, everyone. Say thank you to Christian Schmidt. Thank you, Christian Schmidt. We really appreciate Christian Schmidt.
Yeah, we love having you.
Got a report of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir!